truth, justice, and the American way. We are the Voices of Dissent.
Welcome back to the Voices of Dissent. We are live from Fort Wayne, Indiana. This is Justin McKinsey, joined by Marc Jernigan, Ric Runsteadt, and Jon Olinger, executive producer Joe Walburn, and BJ Steele running the board. We have Billy Vaughn, the father of Navy SEAL Aaron Vaughn, and he has written the book Betrayed, the shocking true story of Extortion 17 as told by a Navy SEAL's father. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Vaughn.
Thank you all. Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Vaughn, I want to say first and foremost, thank you for your son's service and sacrifice, and thank you for your courage, particularly your courage to come on out and try to inform the public that the official government narrative and the media narrative isn't always accurate.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, but with the information that Karen and I began to find out, I mean, really, I don't know if courage is the right words or not. It's absolutely being responsible about what's going on in our country. This is not just about Aaron and those guys on Extortion 17 that night. It's about the demoralization and the transformation, in the words of our commander in chief, of our military, just as he promised us with the rest of our republic.
You know, sir, you are on the show because this show is a massive supporter of anybody who serves our country, sir. Your son's dedication to his country is unquestioned. His dedication to me and my family is unquestioned. And for that, from the bottom of my heart and for all those that I hold dear, thank you very much. I would love to know... You get both sides of it. You can do some research on Extortion 17. You can find both sides of the story. Can you give us a recap? Because I don't think every one of my listeners knows what happened in August of 2011. Can you go through and give us a recap of what happened that day?
Yeah. Now, who am I talking to right now, sir?
My name's Marc Jernigan.
Oh, okay, Mark. Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I don't want this to sound blunt, but if you look at the facts, there's only one side to this story. And it's the incompetence of our leadership in Washington, D.C., the compromising of our military by senior military leadership. I mean, I'm willing, and I'm not a military expert, Mark. Sure. I'm a father who's lost his son and who has been forced, or who has decided, however you want to put it, to do some research about what's going on, about what happened that night, and about plenty of other things. But I'm willing to sit down and debate anybody about what happened that night and how reckless it was. And that's the very least. There at the other end of the spectrum, who knows what this is really all about? There's dereliction of duty. And at least just let me. That's not what you asked me. I'll tell you. Give you a recap of what happened that night. That night on August 6, 2011, a group of 47 Army Rangers and Afghan commandos had gone out on an op named Operation Lefty Grove. Mm-hmm. They had landed some 3 clicks away from where their op target was, and had walked in. And when they began, or before they engaged the Taliban, mm-hmm. Their so-called target, or the man they thought they were after, escaped, if he was ever there. But anyway, he was gone, and after a 3.5 hour engagement with the Taliban, somebody decided on a QRF. And the reason why I say somebody, this is not in my book, but we've found out more information since then. And somebody, I'm told by people in the military, pushed for a QRF, a quick reactionary force, that night
to bail out the Rangers, correct?
Yeah, well, that's the first story that came out. But according to the military testimony that we have, and it's funny you say that. It's not funny you say that, but it's still strange that you say that, because that story still comes out from reliable sources that the Rangers were in trouble. But the official military testimony denies that. In fact, it states from Brigadier General Jeffrey Colt, he asked directly, were the Rangers ever in trouble? And the statement back is no, the Rangers were never in trouble, and he said that's what I thought.
Mr. Vaughn,
yes, sir.
I have to 100% completely agree with you. I don't think the Rangers were ever in trouble.
Okay, and we don't either. We don't either.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this, Mark. We believe the SEALs got information that they were.
So when that happens, and for our listeners to understand that, what you're talking about is you have an operation that has been banned by United States Rangers. They get in, quote, trouble. And so the military's response to that is to deploy what is called a quick reaction force, basically bring in the reserves, to which your son would have been riding in as the cavalry.
That's correct. That's putting it very, very simple and very plainly. Yes.
Perfect. But that's not what happened. There's something that, and there's some real mystery and some intrigue that the Taliban knew your guys were coming. They knew the QRF was coming, and the QRF was the real target.
We can't prove that. If I sound a little bit frustrated, I'm sorry. I'm not a professional. I'm just a dad. But we can't prove that yet, Mark.
Okay.
But we do believe that. We do believe the Taliban knew they were coming. However, in testimony before Congress, Gary Reed, Deputy Secretary of Defense, represented the military in a hearing on February 27th, and he unequivocally, under oath, said there is absolutely no way that the Taliban could have known that the SEALs were coming that night. But I intend to show in writing, because we have the information time after time of how the Taliban could have known. Because of the way they've compromised our special operations with the Afghans, and it's going to be coming out soon, that's going to show that Mr. Reed lied under oath. He absolutely lied under oath. We believe the Taliban did know they were coming, and we also believe I have testimony from the Ranger platoon leader on the ground, and his statement is this. His statement is under oath. His statement is, I did not ask for the QRF. I was told they were coming. And why the conflicting information still goes on. Senior military leadership will tell you the Rangers were not in trouble. People who were there will tell you the Rangers were not in trouble. However, that night the Navy SEALs all loaded onto one chopper, 38 in all, 37 men and a dog. But 30 Americans.
Correct.
All loaded onto one chopper because, and this is the information that I got back from another SEAL Team 6 member, because, and this is his words, because the information the SEALs received is that the landing zone was so hot they didn't think a second chopper would get in. Now, that's not the same information. They are being told that their buddies are in trouble. In fact, I'm told by another SEAL Team 6 member, I can tell you, Mr. Vaughn, if they all got on one chopper, they knew something bad was going down.
Okay.
And so we've got somebody somewhere that pushed for that QRF that night.
But nobody knows who that is?
I'm close to getting a name, because remember I told you, the Ranger on the ground, in his sworn testimony says, the platoon leader says, I didn't ask for the QRF. I was told it was coming.
Who would have asked for the QRF? Obviously, it's not the lieutenant with the Rangers on the ground, the platoon commander. He didn't ask for the QRF. So his full-bird colonel above him would have?
That's what we believe.
Okay.
That's exactly what we believe.
No, hang on. In the colonel's defense, though,
is that somebody high up pushed for this QRF. For what reason, we don't know. We don't know what their agenda is. I'm doing a little bit of speculating now, but I'm not doing as much speculating as I would have been doing if I told you this a year ago. We're getting closer and closer to finding out that somebody out of theater, or at least out of the battle area, wanted this QRF to go in that night and push for the QRF. And then there were at least two different sources or types of information coming out. One is that the op for the Rangers was over, And we believe it was because I'm told by people who were in the area that night that the area was quiet until the shot happened. But the information that the SEALs are getting, the QRF is getting, is that we got to get there in a hurry. Now that's the two different information we believe were coming out. Now why? We don't know that yet.
Now,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Vaughn, was there also some protocol that was violated as a part of this actual mission?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This chopper went out without any escorts.
Yep.
There were two AH-64s in the air, over the operation already going on. They didn't even know because of the confusion. This is how much confusion whether a QRF is coming in or not. They didn't even know to go out and escort the QRF in. They thought their testimony is their main objective was to keep an eye on the squirters on the ground. We're also told that none of the ISR in the air knew that the QRF was coming in. The chopper was now this is not a violation by protocol, but it's really stupid. The chopper was a National Guard chopper that was flying the QRF that night, and flying SEAL Team 6. And I'm not putting down anybody. These were all heroes on that chopper. But you got a conventional group, a National Guard group, and a special ops group flying together, on a chopper not built for a nighttime assault mission, not even built to fly in those areas like that at night, especially going into the area where they were between two mountain ridges.
Yep.
And no pre-assault fire was laid down, even though we know in the testimony that the people on the ground, their statement was, we're pushing for pre-assault fire. And we know that the SEALs asked to have the pre-assault fire command handed over to them, yet there was never a command given for pre-assault fire. There's just a lot of confusion, and there is also, and I'm saying this with more and more confidence all the time, there was an ulterior agenda at play that night. I'm not going as far enough to tell you to any kind of conspiracy as to tell you that somebody in our government wanted the SEALs to get killed. I'm not there yet, but I will say there was an agenda. There was another agenda at play for getting that QRF in there.
Well, when you talk about other agendas, Mr. Vaughn, this is Marc Jernigan again. When you talk about other agendas, the biggest agenda that you have to ask yourself about is, was it related to the Osama bin Laden raid?
Well, that's the one, Mark, where I won't go yet.
Okay.
I have no proof of that. But like I did say, Karen and I we're getting very close to being able to get a name that was pushing another agenda to get the SEALs in there, whether it was just to have a feather in his cap, but he was absolutely, we're told, arguing with people about getting this QRF in there that night. Now, if you want to go way out there, yes, sir, you're absolutely right. 93 days earlier, the Navy SEALs had taken out bin Laden. Joe Biden outed the SEALs for the first time in history.
Yep.
An unprecedented breach of national security. Yet this man still is planning on running for president in 2016 when he should be in prison.
Correct.
And then also we invaded on that night that bin Laden was taken out. We invaded the sovereign airspace of another nation, and we know. I'm talking about Americans, American government, American citizens, if you're involved, know that as early as 2009, our ambassador to Afghanistan said, we know that the Afghan National Army is at least 25% infiltrated with the Taliban. And then we also know that the Operational Coordination Group, this is my statement, not the ambassador didn't make this statement, but we also know that by 2011, 2010, the Operational Coordination Group, who has eyes on every special operations mission that takes place in Afghanistan, with no oversight or no vetting from the American government, is also infiltrated with the Pakistani secret police. And so the perfect setup is there to get payback for bin Laden, and it was all over the internet that the Taliban said they were going to get payback on SEAL Team 6, specifically for taking out bin Laden.
Mr. Vaughn, Jon Olinger here. Hey, I noticed you said it was a National Guard Chinook, which blows me away because, am I correct, the 160th usually flies the SEAL teams with specific training, with specific equipment in, not a National Guard Chinook.
Yeah, it was at the 160th that they were
right.
outed.
You're absolutely right. There was no 160th, we're told, there was no 160th chopper available that night. So it was a National Guard chopper, CH-47 Delta model. a Charlie model first, built in the 1960s, retrofitted
Vietnam era,
to a Delta in 1980s.
Yeah.
We're speaking with Billy Vaughn, the author of the shocking Betrayed, the shocking true story of Extortion 17, as told by a Navy SEAL's father. Now, Mr. Vaughn, did your son see this coming? Did he tell you any of this? Did he think that his leaders were putting him in dangerous positions solely for another agenda?
Well, no, I won't go that far. What Aaron did do is, before he left on this deployment, he called his mom right after the Navy SEALs were outed by Biden, and he told his mom that shut down your social media. He said that there's chatter, our lives are in danger. Mom, your life is in danger. The family's life is in danger. And we know it wasn't just Aaron. There's film footage of then Secretary of Defense Robert Gates at Camp Lejeune saying the same thing, that speaking to special operators there, trying to calm their concerns about their families being harmed or about them being outed by this vice president. So there was a different demeanor, for sure, in the special operations community after they had been outed on the Bin Laden raid.
Huh, wow. I've read No Easy Day, written because he was outed. He didn't even make it home. He was on the plane coming home, and his phone's blowing up from everybody. Hey, I hear you're on the Bin Laden raid. I don't know. It's just a catastrophe. He didn't see it coming. What made your son want to become a Navy SEAL?
Well, Aaron wanted to be a Navy SEAL from the time he was a young boy, about 8 years old, and he just had a love for this republic. He started out, his first interest was to be an Army Ranger. And I told him one day that when we were talking about it, that when he was about 8, on a Saturday afternoon on our farm back in Tennessee, I said, there's a group that's a little bit above the Rangers. And I say that reluctantly, but, and I explained to him what the Navy SEALs were. And he said at that time, that on that day, later in his life, he said that was the day that he made up his mind. He wanted to be a Navy SEAL. He actually followed that dream. He joined. The dream was sidelined because he tore his ACL twice in high school and ended his football career. And the second surgery, there couldn't be anything done. So basically, ended his dream of being a Navy SEAL too. But then at age 21, on his 21st birthday, the following June, after the towers fell, September 11th, Aaron came in and told his mom and I that he had joined the SEAL Challenge program. He had already gotten a college degree by that time and was working in golf course management here in South Florida. And but he loved this republic, and he hated what was being done to it and what had happened on September 11th. And I just so I told Aaron, I said, son, you can't make it as a SEAL because of his leg, but he did. And I just like for people that are listening to think about Aaron and many, many, many other young men who joined our armed forces after September 11th, 2001, because that was what was on their mind, defending this republic. And then think about where our commander-in-chief was at 2001 and all the way up to 2011. Just think of the difference. Think of the difference in the people leading this country and the men and the women on the ground defending this country. That's why we have such a sad state of affairs in our country today. It's not because of the men and women on the ground. It's because of those in leadership positions.
Absolutely. We're speaking with Billy Vaughn, the father of Navy SEAL, who was tragically killed. Sir, what has been, real quickly, we've got about 40 seconds left in this segment, what has been the reception to your book, and what has been the response that you've seen from political leaders across the country to you?
Well, Karen and I self-published the book because we didn't want a word in it changed. And, for people who have read the book, for people who have bought the book, the response has absolutely been just overwhelming. Emails, quite frequently about, the book and how everybody in this country ought to find out what's going on in our military, and also for the most part, for us speaking out about what's going on and what's going on in the military, the response there again has been probably 98, 99% supportive, and so many other families.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir, for your service. Thank you so much for publishing this. Thanks for being on the air.
Truth, justice, and the American way. We are the voices of dissent.